right, Draco, you ready to go out? So my audio today is not going to be the best because the other day I dropped my phone and the dongle that connects my phone to my microphone just broke. So it's going to be a few days until I can get a new one. However, I did not want to leave you guys waiting on the garden tour, so we're going to do it anyway and see how it goes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rachel, and every single week I do these garden tours to kind of show not just what's going on in my garden and share some of that excitement with you, but also to give you a good, like, holistic picture of what a normal garden looks like year round. Because a lot of times it's very tempting to just post the highlight reel of what's going on in any area of your life. And I think that new gardeners, especially coming in, deserve to see all of the mistakes and all of the times when nothing's really going on and be able to feel okay about that. This is where we're at today. Doesn't look like a lot going on from far away, but there is actually a lot in the garden. Also, check out these beautiful spring flowers coming in my swale. These are technically weeds, as in I didn't plant them, but they are lovely. Along this first row, this trellis, underneath all of it is garlic, and that has been planted since the beginning of winter. It is coming up pretty nicely. All of this is from garlic seed stock that I grew last year. That was from the Experimental Farm Network. It's called Dixon Softneck. And it makes pretty large heads. So I'm really excited to see how my garlic looks this year, given that it's the second year in this environment. Saving your own seed has the benefit of every year making the plants that you're growing more and more adapted to your area, because you're saving seeds from plants that grew in your garden. And then down the second row in the center, I have onions. Some of them are starts, and like this big one here, that was an onion that just sprouted in my pantry, and I just threw it in the ground. Recently, I have planted root vegetables here. I have kind of covered up by the straw 2 rows of turnips, and then these ones that are less covered are carrots mixed with radishes. If you see the logo in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you know that carrots are kind of part of my brand. However, I am notoriously bad at growing them. They're kind of difficult, and I didn't really realize that when I chose that as the logo, but it kind of has turned into a really wonderful representation of what I stand for in my channel. This thing that is really tough to do. I'm not giving up on it. I'm trying lots of different things. I'm showing you guys what I'm trying, and hopefully eventually I will see success. I've been trying planting at many different times of year. I've tried different ways of actually physically putting the seeds in the ground, different ways of making sure that they stay watered, and so far nothing has been really obviously successful. This particular time I tried, again, the cornstarch method, where you mix your seeds in with cornstarch gel and then kind of try and pipe that into the dirt. This is not the first time I've tried this, but you know, it could just be time of year. But the thing with that method is it's just so sticky. It's hard to get the seeds to come out at like a really good rate, and the consistency of the gel is really hard to get right. So even if it works really well, I'm going to be tempted to not do it again, because it's just so much time and effort, and it doesn't really seem to do a very good job of spreading the seeds out anyway. I'll link to the video that uses the method that I'm describing. But if we come farther down, I did plant potatoes not too long ago, and you can see right here, especially, this one's starting to leaf out and come up, so that's really positive. These purple ones had pretty big eyes that had sprouted on them already, so they did have quite a bit of a head start. I've got a couple other varieties in here as well. I've got Sarpo Mira and golden potatoes, but I haven't seen any of those come up just yet. I know most people, at least in the US, just went through this really crazy storm, cold in areas where it never gets cold. I think there was a blizzard warning in Los Angeles, which is wild. Meanwhile, here in South Carolina, it is unseasonably warm. This is my second week in a row wearing tank tops out in the garden. The high today is 76 Fahrenheit. It is going to get cold again later this week, but the low is only something like 39, which is like really mild for February. On these arched trellises on the outside, I have onions and garlic, and I recently planted peas, which are just barely starting to poke up out of the soil. They are so cute. Hopefully I get harvest from these ones, because my fall peas grew really big and strong, but just never really made any pods, which I thought was really odd, and I can't really explain it. But maybe I'll have more luck with some spring peas. And then this last row here, it's also more onion, but also I have planted out a few of my lettuce and brassica seedlings. So I have kale here. There is a spinach right in here. There's a lettuce over here. And what I think is really interesting, these have only been in the ground like, I don't know, 4 days at this point, and they have already put out a bunch of new leaves, and they're actually a lot larger than the ones that didn't get transplanted. Here's all the ones that haven't been transplanted yet. You can see they don't look unhealthy by any means, but they're definitely smaller than the ones that got transplanted even just 4 days ago. And while I would expect for transplants to start really taking off, these ones have taken off much faster than I would have expected. And I think it's because I've been watering these seedlings with a little bit of Rev, which can help reduce transplant shock. If you haven't heard me talk about Rev, this is the one company out of like all the ones that continue to contact me that I actually accepted as an affiliate, because their product is actually really wonderful. I'm not gonna talk a whole lot about it right now, but I do have an entire video on it up here if you want to learn why I feel so strongly about recommending this product to you guys. And since I am affiliated with them, I do have a link where you can get a discount that is in the description below. They're also really great about sending out free samples, because they really want everybody to be able to try their product before spending money on it. So you can definitely go to their website and check out the little free sample bottles that they have. I also put some of these starts in my new raised bed just to see how they would do, and especially because I have a ton of extra starts. So we'll just see how those go. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put the rest of those starts. I didn't really expect them to all do as well as they did. I'm coming back over here to the established raised bed. I want to show you guys the teeniest, tiniest little sprouts of all time. Can you see those in there? They're so itty bitty. I think those are my chamomile sprouts. Chamomile seeds are so tiny, I can like barely even see them. They're like smaller than grains of sand. So it makes sense to me that the sprouts are also itty bitty. I also want to show you guys where I'm seeing new growth on my overwintered herbs. So this lavender right here, if you look at the base here, you see that bright green right there? That's brand new growth on this lavender after it overwintered. A lot of this gray stuff is crunchy and it just kind of falls off. The tops are still nice and moist like live plant. This is not, I'm not familiar with this plant as far as like how it grows year over year. But to me, seeing these new little sprouts coming in on the sides of the stem, that is a really good sign that the plant is doing its job coming back after the winter. You can kind of see this more clearly on the sage. You can see a lot of leaves have fallen off. Some of the stems look kind of barren, but if you look closely, like the stem, you see all those baby leaves coming out. That means the plant is definitely still healthy, and it just dropped a bunch of its old leaves in its cycle of going through the winter. And now that I've got this second raised bed filled up and like ready for planting, I did want to mention to you guys sort of the differences between these two. These are two different brands, even though they look really similar. This one is Vigo and this one is Vigiga. I will put both of those names on the screen because they're very similar in the way that these beds are very similar. I got sent this one to review but I was not like paid in any other way other than they sent it to me. And I actually didn't sign any contracts saying that I would say anything about them. But I do think that it'll be good for me to kind of take note of this one versus this one and just talk to you guys about the differences. So far, the only difference that I've seen is that this one comes in a few more different shapes than the ones from this brand. And otherwise, they seem practically identical to me. Walking over here at first glance, it doesn't really look like a lot is happening, but when you zoom in, it looks very much alive. This one blueberry bush that has been thriving, I mean, look at that. That looks so happy and healthy. And then if we come over here to the blackberry bushes, once you are looking a little closely, you can see they are greening up really fast. These little buds that were just coming out last week are expanding really quickly. Like all of this over here, this is new growth in the last week since you've seen it. These look really good. Raspberries are a little farther behind, but you can find, well, let's get the camera to focus on that. You can find little green buds poking out. There we go. These look really good. I am so excited for all the berries I'm gonna have this year. The blueberries, the strawberries, the blackberries, the raspberries. There's gonna be so much jam. Oh my goodness. Alrighty, well that is pretty much the full garden tour. If this is your first garden tour, I encourage you to go catch up on all of the rest of the garden tours. I've got a playlist for each year, so 2023 and 2022 will be up here. And I invite you to subscribe so that you don't miss next week's garden tour. I'm usually very consistent about putting them out on Wednesdays, so check back next Wednesday for next week's garden tour. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening.